So, well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Dalles Chamber Community Affairs. We have our guest today is Beatriz Lynch. Hopefully I have said that correctly all week as I've announced it on the radio. She is with SafeSpace. It's another organization that truly does advocate for our kids and helps keep them safe and provides solutions that way. I love it that we have so many different that are just people and associations that are making sure that the well-being of our littles is top priority. So before we have you begin, we're going to go around the room. So prepare, Phil, because I will be calling on you. I'll give you a chance to chew your breakfast. We're going to start with David Peters, and everybody's going to introduce themselves and who they represent, just so Beatriz is familiar. I'm sure she's probably met you at one time or another. But this gives her a chance to know who's in the room and which organizations are in the room. So we're going to start with David Peters.
Good morning, Beatriz. It's Dave. I'm with the Housing Authority, Columbia Cascade Housing Corporation, which is a nonprofit sort of associated with the Housing Authority. And we do, the Housing Authority does the voucher program, the HUD voucher program. We have about 800 recipients of that in the Gorge. And I do part, which is the Columbia Cascade. And Columbia Cascade has about 400 apartments in the Gorge. And then I do the housing development side of that. So potentially building housing for home ownership, but then also the programs that have to do with home ownership, meaning home repair, foreclosure prevention, home buying, down payment assistance, that kind of stuff.
Great, thank you. We love having Dave present so that we can be aware and spread the word. Scott McKay.
Good morning, everyone. Scott McKay. I'm a community liaison for Circles of Care, which is an initiative of Age Plus, a statewide nonprofit that focuses on rural communities. We always looking for volunteers, but on Tuesday, we had a really fantastic conference on dementia and Alzheimer's. Minnie McGinty, put on by the Oregon and Southwest Washington Alzheimer's Association, well attended and a lot of great information. So I will probably sum that up somehow, get the word out of what we talked about. But so that's it. Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you. Phil Brady.
Good morning. I'm Phil Brady. I'm Wasco County Commissioner. And some of the boards that I work on related to this topic are public health and MCAC. And for my background, I was a science teacher, but for a long part of that 9 years, I was at Norcor teaching juvenile detention.
All right. Oh, look, just in time, Miss Corliss Marsh.
Good morning, everyone. Alarm failed. Here I am. That's it. I'm with Habitat, the library, and the senior center.
Awesome. And then for the chamber, I just want to remind you just real quick, our candidates forum is October 15th. Before the end of this call, I'll put the link up to the calendar with some more details. But we're trying to make it so that you guys have an informed forum that you can make those educated decisions on who to vote for. We'll be also hosting the for and against for Measure 117, also Measure 118, and then the CGCC bond committee will also there to present what the bond means on that ballot, because that will be on our ballot and that's a local one. So we'll be we'll be doing those along with our county positions that are affecting truly all of Wasco County. We have a ton of different things going on, but everybody wants to know Starlight Parade. It will be the 29th of November, and the theme is Toyland on Parade. And so that will be that. And yes, we are doing a Veterans Day parade on November 11th at 11. It's our normal parade route. So there's your three big things that are coming up besides my preaching that will forever take place until the end of the year. Actually, I'm 365, shop local, support local, and be local. And so we'll be doing that. But with that, we have everybody introduced. So Beatriz, it's all yours. I've made you co-host. So if you need to share your screen, it sometimes makes it a little bit easier.
Okay, thank you. Good morning, everybody. I don't think I've met most of you. Scott, you and I have met before. Actually, a quick history. Many moons ago, Scott taught my son how to swim. So, as a swim coach.
Oh,
Yeah. So he is now a almost 30-year-old young man. So I don't know if you want people to know that or not.
I know it does make you feel awfully old when you have your ex-swimmers who are 30, 40 years old.
Yeah. So, good morning. My name is Beatriz Lynch, and I am the Executive Director of SafeSpace Children's Advocacy Center. And I'll give you a quick rundown of what an advocacy center is. We are the Child Abuse Assessment Center for this area. We serve 5 counties. We're kind of unique because we also serve Klickitat, which is, crossing state lines. But I can make the case that the Gorge community is just kind of one big community. Our families go back and forth across the river. It's not that, big of a deal. So it just makes sense for us to serve those families as well. In the last year and a half, we also got contracted by Intertribal Police. They serve the in-lieu sites on both sides of the river. From their area is quite big. It's from the border of Multnomah County all the way out to Boardman on both sides of the river. I found out last week that there's 31, is it 31? Yes, 31 in-lieu sites in their territory. And those sites, there's 4 nations that have rights to fish on those, and it's Yakima, Warm Springs, Umatilla, and Nez Perce. And what's happened over the last few years is that those in-lieu sites that were meant just to be temporary for fishing, they've become more and more year-round residents living there. So Intertribal Police have found themselves to be having to pivot more out of this fish and wildlife patrolling to more traditional police patrolling, which means, in those in-lieu sites where families and communities live, comes everything else that comes with communities. So they came to us about a year and a half ago, and they said, we run into child abuse every once in a while, and we'd like to bring the kids here. So that was, pretty amazing that they chose us, because they have some options. They could go to Hermiston or Pendleton or even into Portland, but we're pretty excited to be able to partner with them to serve kids. The way that we get referrals is through law enforcement or DHS. Usually what happens is that the first call goes to either one of those agencies and the second call comes to us. We are able to gather the team to do the assessment. We have forensic interviewers, and what that means is we have specially trained interviewers to talk to children to elicit the story in their own words and in their own way of telling it. It's their story, and we want to be able to do that. We also have a medical team that will do the medical exam. So these exams are not your traditional just, well child. They kind of look like that, but they take a little bit longer. Most exams take a minimum of 30 minutes because the doctor is really going head to toe and asking those follow-up questions about any scars, any injuries, just to make sure that whatever the story is coincides with the injury on the child's body. We bring the whole team together. We have an advocate that will sit with the family and kind of becomes their second eyes and ears. Because as you can imagine, sometimes families are in crisis. There are times where it's the first time parents have found out that something's happened to their child. So there's a lot of information that's been thrown at them that is being asked of them. So our advocates really sit there with them and become kind of their second eyes and ears and a contact person in case they have questions or there's follow-up things that need to happen after they leave. One of the most exciting parts of our, I'll talk a little bit about the capital project that we are just about ready to complete. But one of the things that has happened with that capital project is that we got a new building. It's much bigger. But we are also working now on opening up the mental health piece of it. And that's been the piece that's been missing in our advocacy center. So Youth, Mind, and Body will be opening up the first of the year or first of the month in October 1st, we've got one part-time mental health therapist that's going to come on board. We're working on recruiting for other mental health providers. And that's really going to be important to do that crisis counseling right away, to do a warm handoff. Maybe our therapist isn't going to do the long-term work for healing that family, but they can do a warm handoff to the person that will be doing it. There could be times where she is going to be the one that is working with the child and maybe the family to get them on the path of healing and to really start that healing process. So we're really excited about that. Lynn Frost has come on board as our mental health director. She comes with great, what do you call it? Professional chops, I guess. She's a nurse practitioner. She's also got accepted to the Mayo Clinic to complete her psychiatric nurse practitioners, which means she'll be able to prescribe mental health medications for children. Once she completes this, it's a 12-month program. So she'll be able to do that by next year. She's also the person that started the health clinic at the Hood River High School. So she's very well used to bringing together folks and creating a program like that. I know that she's been reaching out to the school districts to figure out how we can do some medical appointments, I guess, so that kids don't have to leave school if the schools provide a room where they can access their therapist in that way. So we're really excited about that. The other part that we added was our prevention folks. And our prevention has been going out and talking to a lot of people, educating folks on child abuse. Our lane is child abuse. So she's been doing a lot of work in the Dalles, actually. The school district in the Dalles said, yes, we need all the help we can get. Please come on board. I know she's done presentations to Colonel Wright, to the middle school. I don't know if she's done anything with the high school, but she's also in the Dufur School District a lot.
Beatrice?
Oh, yes, sorry. Go ahead.
And you'll probably get into this, just to get my self thinking in the right direction. What age groups are we talking about? What range?
0 to 18. Yeah, no, that's a great question. Sorry, I forget sometimes. So we see 0 to 18s. Our mental health is going to go up to 21. For those kids that come in maybe at 17 and they've got work to do, we're not going to kick them out at 18 when they turn 18. So we won't accept new clients if they're over the age of 18, but if somebody's already working with one of our therapists, they will be able to stay until they're 21. Where was I? So we're very excited to have these things. I want to talk a little bit about the prevention. I think some of the prevention work that we've been doing has really been paying off, because I can always count on when Amanda Holste is our prevention person. When she goes out and talks to the schools, I can almost guarantee the following week we're going to get a call or two, because sometimes what she says triggers somebody to say, oh my gosh, my friend told me about something that's happening to him or her. And so they'll reach out for help. So that's really exciting that we're able to reach that. Numbers wise, when we opened our doors in 2009, we were serving just Hood River County, and we averaged maybe 40 to 50 cases a year, which is still a lot for our little community. Since we've expanded to serve Wasco and Gillum and Wheeler counties and Klickitat, our numbers have gone up. In 2022, we saw 132 cases. In 2023, we saw 187 cases. Right now, as we're sitting here, we have 190 that we've seen so far this year. So I know that some of our prevention work is working, that people are reporting things, but I also know that our kids are hurting, and I can almost tell you that almost every child that we see has some sort of mental health thing going on. A lot of cutting. We see a lot of kids that are cutting again, and not just girls. It used to be just a girl thing. Boys are doing it too. So I know that our kids are hurting right now. Last year in Hood River, we had 3 completed suicides of young folks. And then I think there was just as many attempts that ended up in the hospital. So for a community our size, and this is just Hood River, because I know that the Dalles had some young folks die of suicide as well as like Klickitat. So for our small communities, this is a crisis, and we have trying to figure out what we can do. One of the things about our capital campaign was that we were just wanting a bigger space to do our abuse assessments. But when we ended up talking and really talking to community partners in the community, mental health was one of the things that everybody said, this is such a need, that we ended up having to create our own mental health. Now, it's a big ask, because mental health providers are, they're not, oh gosh, I always say it's kind of a unicorn right now because there is such demand. And so we know that it's going to be an uphill battle to recruit people to come to work for us, but we also can't just not do it. So that's the project that we're on right now. I will pause for questions. Okay, I do have a video that I'd like to show you. If I can get it up, I will share that with you. It's about a 4-minute video. Can you guys see that?
Yes, we can see it. Make sure that you do the sound piece of it.
Okay.
There is a function up at the top, I believe, when you do the video that allows the sound to also do. So you might just hit stop on your video and then do the sound piece of it.
Okay.
I'm trying to remember where it's at. It only comes up when you flip up the video. There's a function that you can do.
Okay. Is it still playing? Sorry.
No, your screen went away.
Okay. Can you see the screen now?
Yes.
Okay. Let me see. Hold on just a second. Okay. Am I back on the screen? Am I not sharing anything?
Right, correct.
Okay, let me try this again.
Lisa, perhaps we could set, this would be a great thing for the Chamber of Commerce, have a training from people from Zoom for all the people in the community. So we all become Zoom experts and certified or something.
There we go. Yeah. It's tough because they update them and then those commands go to a different part. So,
Oh my gosh. They're
yeah.
trying to keep us on our toes. Yep.
Yeah, they are. So is this a link or a video that you have on your screen?
I have, it is a link. I can send you the link. If I can't, let me.
Yeah, put the link down into the chat. I'll
Okay.
grab it and see if I can do it from my end.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. I have to like email it to you because it's part of a presentation. So.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, let me try this again. If we can't do it, then you guys, it's a 4-minute video. It's not a big, no, gee whiz. Stop. One more try, guys, and then
Okay.
we'll. Okay. There it is. All right, let me see if this will work. Are you hearing it?
No.
Okay. Okay. I will send that to you guys. Sorry about that.
Okay.
I'm not
Okay.
not sure how that sound works. Anyway, it's just a little bit of a video that we created as part of our capital campaign to kind of show the journey of this campaign. Before we moved into our new space, we were operating out of a 1,500 square foot building, and it was rented. And right before the pandemic, our building sold, and we were like, kind of scrambling, going, uh-oh, are we going to be kicked out, or what's going to happen? So it kind of made us feel like we're vulnerable, and we need to do something about this. So we started a capital campaign. We started out with a goal of $2 million. It turned into a $5 million campaign because we bought a building that was much bigger than we actually needed. But at that time, we're like, it sounds like we're going to have to do something with mental health, and we're going to have to do it ourselves. So we were able to buy a 8,400 square building. It's huge. It has 2 stories. So the top story is going to be our mental health program. And then we occupy the bottom one. We have 2 assessment areas so that we can see multiple families, and they wouldn't have to meet in the middle, because we're still a small community, and privacy is very important. So we're very excited about that part of it. I encourage you all to come visit. I think me hearing about it doesn't make as big as impact as once you walk through and you see the rooms where everything happens. It's pretty impactful when I can talk about the medical room and the fact that we do rape kits for children. We have pediatric rape kits. The youngest child we've ever done a rape kit on was an 18-month-old baby. So it's, kids get hurt, and I'm very excited that we have a place now that we can see those children and get them on the path of healing. So again, I'll pause a little bit because I can go on. Is there any part of this that you're more interested than others? And then I can talk a little bit about that.
So again, the reality of what you do is so important and so impactful. As a teacher, I've seen kids struggling and watched a few survive and come back. But then I also know, this is going to be a lifelong struggle for them.
Yeah.
Our bodies remember, and it's going to be hard. A quick connection. The Bridges to Health is setting up community health workers, which I imagine are mostly going to attend to the senior population. But is there a connection to community health workers happening?
That's a good question. We don't, but you're making me think about the fact that maybe there's a place where we can help, partner. A lot of the times when kids leave our building, they leave with recommendations for follow-up medical, follow-up dental. We will see kids that really need early intervention assessments and things like that. So that's a good reminder that I probably need to reach out. If not for anything, we would like to train them on child abuse, because if they're in people's homes and they have contacts with children, they need to know the signs and then what to do when they suspect something. So if for nothing else, just for training. I know that we've done the health department in Wasco County was one of the first agencies that reached out, and we did a big training with them. We partner with law enforcement and DHS and did a mandatory training for them and talked about what child abuse looks like.
Yeah, what makes sense to me is the community health workers, I mentioned, probably deal more with senior population, but that's grandparents who are often seeing the kids from a second perspective.
Yeah. Actually, I think every adult should take this training. It's called the Darkness to Light, because we all have, even if you don't work with children directly, you may be a coach, or you have grandchildren, or you run a church group. So I think it's all valuable information. The more eyes we have on children and awareness, I think is better. So I'm going to talk a little bit about money. So since we've opened our doors in 2009 in Hood River County, we've had 5 child abuse trials. So that's almost 15 years ago. Well, it is 15 years ago. Before that, the district attorney will say that she would go to trial on child abuse cases 3 or 4 times a year. And these are multiple day trials. And each day it costs an average about $10,000 to $15,000 a day for a trial. You know, that includes the judge's time, the clerks, you know, all of that stuff, but it's about $10,000 to $15,000 a day. So it's a cost savings for our communities when you don't have to take these to trial. It saves a lot of money. The impact that defense attorneys have with their client is that they're able to show them the video, like, this is what this child said, you know, you did to her or him. And so they don't go to trial. They plead out. They're still being held accountable. The justice is still there, but the child doesn't have to go to trial, doesn't have to go testify. And the emotional cost to that is immense, because most of the time, we all know this, that person that is hurt them is somebody that was supposed to protect them or love them. So it's really emotional. It's re-traumatizing the child when they have to go to trial. So we're not only saving money for our communities, but I think we're also emotionally saving a lot of children from having to do that. The full cost of our assessments, we say it costs about $2,500. That's the mental health, or that's the medical exam, the interview, the advocacy piece of it, and now with our mental health program. So we're kind of like St. Jude's. No family or child ever gets a bill from us. Everything we do is free. We're supported by some some state funding and some federal funding. The state funding we get is it's not a tax base. It's all based on fines and assessments that you pay from a traffic ticket. If you go to court for anything and you get a fine, the state of Oregon collects all of that money and then reallocates it back to the counties, specifically for child abuse investigations. So when we contract with Wasco County, those are the funds that they're using to pay us. When we contract with the other counties, they use those funds as well. Washington's a little bit different system, but Hood River has given us all of their CAMI funding. It's called CAMI funding to run this the center. We also get some federal funding through the VOCA, the Victims of Crime Act. Those are a little bit harder I mean, it's federal grants, and so they're a beast in itself, but that's how we fund our program. Fundraising and also county contracts. So, questions? I love it as a small group because we can really have a conversation. I don't need to go into my big spiel, and so please jump in.
The last point about county contracts, that's directly with the county or with agencies?
Well, it's directly with the so the district attorney's office in Wasco County administers your CAMI funding. So the contract is with the district attorney's office, and they use those funding. But I think the county commissioners have to sign off on those. You're county commissioners? Oh, good. Let me talk to you. Right now, we don't have a current contract with Wasco County. So I'm going to talk a little bit about cases and money. So I'm saying that 60% of our caseload comes from Wasco County, and we get about $45,000 a year for the children that we see. So it's really not enough. And right now we are kind of going back and forth over a small increase that I wanted to do for Wasco County to make it up to, not 50,000, I think is what we're going to get. So again, it's not really enough in comparison to what the other counties are paying. But I will tell you that we're very excited and we're eager to keep this contract going with Wasco County because the need is there. We know that. At the end of the day, if you didn't have a contract with us, the people that's going to hurt is the kids. So we work really well with our law enforcement partners in the Dalles. Both the Dalles Sheriff's Office and the city are just wonderful partners. So anyway, maybe Phil, you and I can have a conversation later on.
Yeah, that's good. I'll put my email into the chat and let's connect. I think what you're talking about seems very reasonable. Wasco County, we realize that we have more population and size and have just as many problems as everybody else.
Yeah. Well, and one of the things too is I don't know if you guys know this about your county, but your Wasco County was the last county in the state of Oregon to have had a contract with a CAC. So up until 2018, your folks were trying to do it on their own. So I know that the community partners really appreciate the fact that the police officers don't have to interview children in the sheriff's office or in the police department. Because that's pretty scary. I mean, all of us, when I get pulled over, I start sweating, and I'm an adult, so I can't imagine a child having to tell, something horrific that's happened to them to an officer. So
You probably know this, but our county, there's going to be some switching of district attorneys. Matt
Yes.
Ellis is moving to Hood River, and one from Gillum County is coming to the Dalles. Yeah.
Yes. So I work with all of the district attorney's office. So Kara and I are pretty, I have her on speed dial and stuff. So we're pretty connected. And I think, I think she's on board. She understands the need for this. So we make their lives easier too. I mean, when you don't have to go to trial all the time and be defending these cases, I think it makes their workload a little bit easier too. So anyway, I forgot where I left off, but anybody else have any questions or any interest that I can talk a little bit more about? I just really want to talk a little bit more about the mental health piece of it. I am so excited to finally get this up and running. We see our first cases, I think, next week. With our very limited time that we have with a mental health provider. But this is an area that is such need for kids. And as you can imagine, I think we will have no problem filling any spaces that we have. That's not going to be an issue. The issue is that there's not a whole lot of money out there for startup programs. So we understand that the first year is going to be the most expensive. And so that's right now, all of the fundraisers. We have a golf tournament on Saturday. All of this money that we're raising the last few months has been going towards the mental health and get that up and running to pay folks. So so excited. In our mental health, we are a small agency, so we're able to be a little bit more nimble. One of the things that we keep talking about is doing a satellite office in the Dalles. Again, because most of the cases come from the eastern part of the gorge. But it's really expensive to get a clinic going. I think our mental health will be a little bit more mobile. And we've talked about, for mental health, we need one room. To do an assessment, we need a minimum of 4 rooms. Plus all the equipment that comes with recording and all that stuff. For mental health, we would need a room. And if we can figure out how to partner with schools, then our mental health providers, there's no reason why they can't go out and meet the kids where they're at. So I'm super excited about that. I just can't talk enough about the need for this. When we have families and we are recommending that they your child needs to go see a counselor, and they said, well, there's, a 2-month waiting list to go anywhere. It's just so disheartening.
Beatriz?
Yeah.
I got excited when you started talking about rooms, but first I want to ask about, so I'll come back to that, but from your perspective, can you talk to us about social media and cell phones, how that plays into what you see?
Yeah. Oh, holy cow, you guys. It is such I don't know, it's such a Pandora's box, and I don't know how we're ever going to, undo this. But during the pandemic, before that, people were talking about limit screen time. During the pandemic, it was just, kids were on their devices 8 or 9 hours a day for school and then for other things. And no matter how many locks they put on those devices, kids still figured out a way to go around them. We saw, not so much this year, but last year, we saw several kids with like kid-on-kid sexual stuff. And they were young, 9, 10, 11-year-olds. And when you start talking about them and they start telling you what they're watching on YouTube or on, you know, whatever, and it's pornography. And when you're 9 years old, you can't process that. So a lot of social issues are happening in our schools because kids kind of forgot how to, you know, interact with each other. The amount of kids taking nude pictures of themselves and sending them out, or sending them to what they think one person, and then that person shares them. We've had several of those cases, and they're heartbreaking for kids in the middle school. I mean, when you have a little girl come in, she's a 7th grader, and she got her little boyfriend got her to send her a nude picture of her, and then he shares it. He airdrops it to the school. That happened. It's horrendous. The bullying and the bad things. I mean, we're all of the age where we didn't have cell phones, and you know, when we went to school, we all had somebody who picked on us or whatever. But when you went home, you got a rest from that. Now there is no rest. It's on your phone. It's 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. I don't know. It's such a and it's so bad for your mental health. You know, if you're having a hard time anyway, and then you pull up your Facebook and everybody on there seems so happy and doing such wonderful things, and your life is just like, oh my God, and my life sucks, you know, whatever. It's so bad. I don't know what we do. I know that Hood River County school districts have been talking about banning phones. And then you have a school shooting, and then as a parent, you'd be like, I would be freaking out if I couldn't get a hold of my child. But yeah, it is. It's an issue. It's an issue, and I don't have the answer, but we see it. We see those kid on kid, and not just us. Nationwide, there's a group that's working on. Let me see if I remember the acronyms correctly. Problematic sexual behaviors with kids. So it's a lot of kid on kid having sex. When you're having sex at 12. And then you kind of figured out like, this isn't what I wanted, or this isn't what I thought it was. And then you have these kids that are now saying I was sexually abused, even though you kind of weren't because you consented to it. But now you're like figured out that you're too young to having, and you can't process this. So the kids are saying that they were sexually abused, and you start talking to them and they're, well, you were kind of an active participant, but what's going on is that you are too young to be having sex because you can't process it. So there's a lot of that stuff. And, you know, I think we're all like just going, oh my gosh, because it's happened nationwide. And I know in the state of Oregon, we have a group of professionals that are working just on this.
Switching back to, we're talking about rooms, there's some shuffling happening in Wasco County. The county government is moving to what used to be the Gobi building on 3rd Street.
Mm-hmm.
And we're filling up that place, but there might be a room still available.
Okay.
But they were also clearing out some buildings on Court Street. Below the library, there's some bungalows that we were in. We probably have some use for that. And then,
wow, I didn't know that.
Public health is also going to be moving out of the annex. The annex is going to go for public housing, hopefully, but that public health is looking for a new place, and there might be room in their new place if we get on board earlier.
Well, I need to start having these conversations because I'd love to find some, some place.
Public health is. We just voted this, so I can say it. Martha McGinnis is going to be the new director of public health.
Okay. Nice. Are you guys any more questions, or before I head down another rabbit path?
No, go ahead.
Okay. Another thing that I wanted to talk to you about is the types of cases that we see. We do a lot of, and there's a slight amount more that we see for physical abuse than sexual abuse, but we see a lot of those cases. We also started doing a lot of drug endangered cases with Measure 101. that decriminalized drugs, that played havoc with our child protective services folks, because it used to be they would walk into a house or, you know, talk to a parent, and if they saw any drug paraphernalia, they were able to do something. They were able to say, you know, this is not safe for your child, and they had a little bit more authority to go in there and request either a drug test or something like that to make sure the child is safe. Also, law enforcement would be able to cite them if you know, if they weren't cooperating. So the law had a little bit more teeth to see that. When that decriminalized and DHS workers were finding, you know, meth pipes, they were treating them like, you know, a glass of wine or something, which is not the same. We know that if you're on meth, you're not being, you know, you're not parenting effectively. So we started doing a lot of drug testing because the only way that DHS can intervene in those situations is if they can prove that the child has been exposed to it and has drugs in their system. So we are doing a lot of hair testing. What that gives you is that if you do a urine test, you can say, oh yes, the child ingested whatever drug. But parents would say, oh my gosh, it was just one time, I left it there, you know, it's not a big deal. But when you do the hair follicle and you get a positive urine test, and then you do the hair follicle, and that can go back up to 3 to 6 months. And then they can say, well, no, your child has been exposed to whatever for more than, you know, three months at least. So we started doing a lot of that to help DHS safety plan for those families. And that was one of those unintended consequences with this, you know, decriminalizing drugs. I don't know what it's going to look like because I know they're criminalizing it again, but I think that it's going to take a little while for that to kind of right itself again, to be able to have authority over some of the parenting that's happening with that. So that's one thing. I didn't know that a lot of people know that. So. Questions before I move on? Great, you guys are great. Partnering with our medical community has also been something that we have been working on. We have 3 providers that work with us. Lynn Frost is she does medical exams as well. Dr. Glenn Patrizio, who's our medical director, has been working with the medical community. One of the things that I was surprised to hear this is that when you're a doctor in residence and stuff, you don't get a lot of training on child abuse. And the thing that they get is like, well, if you see child abuse, you need to report it. But they're not trained to ask those questions of children. And so Dr. Patrizio has been going out and talking to the medical groups. I know that he's had meetings with the hospitals, the ER staff, and just really training them also to report it, which is always like one of those things that I'm just surprised that our medical community didn't know or wasn't quite clear on how to report it, when to report it. You know, we had a little girl, 6-year-old little girl with gonorrhea. So we know that the only way that a child or anybody gets gonorrhea is through sexual contact. She went to her private doctor's office and he suspected gonorrhea because he ordered the test for it, but he didn't report it. So that little girl went home and was with her abuser for another 10 days waiting for that test to come back. It came back positive for gonorrhea. But in between those 10 days, she also had, a lot of issues with an active case of gonorrhea. Her parents ended up taking her to the ER. The ER missed it. So 2 different levels of medical folks that missed this. By the time it got to reported, it had been 10 days later. And so at that time we were like freaking out. I'm like, oh my gosh, why didn't the doctor report it? Any STI that a child has needs to be reported because some of it, well, no, I'm not going to say some of it. None of it a child should have. So
yeah, a couple of things. One, I can also see from the doctor's point of view, like this isn't something I would think of. It's terrible, and so outside regular thought to think that a kid like that would be suffering. Coming back to schools again, I know because I was a teacher, we do these online trainings. You're familiar with them, and okay, I'm retired now, so I can tell. I got to the point where I could, at the end, I could take the test without watching the video. Yeah. If you could talk to the school district and say the teachers would be happy to not watch those videos if we had a live presentation from your group, and it would be more effective.
We have been trying to, my sister's a teacher, so, and she tells me, she goes, it's kind of stupid. I mean, you can put it on loop and go do something else. So I know that fact that their training, their mandatory training is not adequate. But it's really hard to get into the school districts because they have their in-service built in, and they've got their system all ready to do that. And to introduce something new, they're like, whoa, this is, and it takes more than 50 minutes. And so that's also really hard, I know, for the school districts to find 2.5-hour period where they can send their kids to, or their teachers to. But yeah, it's very inadequate. Oregon also has Aaron's Law for the school districts. Aaron's Law is where every child needs to have at least 2 hours a year of training or information on child abuse, not just sex abuse, but just all sex abuse. That's K through 12. And Oregon adopted Aaron's Law, but I know that our schools are not meeting Aaron's Law. So that's one of the things that we can also talk to the schools and say, we can help you with this. We've got a curriculum, and it's K through 12 that we can present to the schools. So far, the Dalles Middle School has been great. We're there in the spring. Amanda's there for like a week and a half because she does all of the grades through the health class, and it's fantastic. It's really good information, and we'd like to do it for the high schools, but also for the elementary schools. I mean, we need to start educating and teaching our kids younger and younger, because by the time you're 17 and you're getting this information, some of it might be too late. You've already maybe experienced some of that. The other part that I'd really like to get a little bit more information is for those older kids, the seniors, as they're heading off to college. There's so much stuff out there that I would love to be able to do a safety course for the kids that are heading off and being on their own. Not just abuse, but there's also our doctors can talk about the dangers of alcohol and everything else that is out there. It's a scary world right now with fentanyl. I know that we've lost some young people, and I don't want to say overdose, because some of them were not. I know one of them was not an addict. He was just a young man who's experimenting with things, and he took something that he didn't know what he was taking. So there's a lot of work to be done. Question?
Yeah, let's talk about it on the side. I know the Dalles High School has a very good advanced placement program, and they take the advanced placement test, and then that's about 3 weeks before school's out. And then those students, they're kind of like, we're done, and so, but they're still there. But that would be a very key cohort of people to talk to, because they're going off to college, every one of them, and they have that couple of weeks of downtime. It'd be a nice, it'd be a great, easy connection. Not the whole school body, but a key cohort.
Yes. Yeah. And I would bring in, we've got an officer that we work with who is such a good trainer on drugs, and you can go through like all the way from marijuana down to the worst case, and just kind of talk about that. I mean, as an adult and as an old lady like me, I'm not, out there doing that. It's scary though. And it just opens my eyes and, kind of freaks you out a little bit, but I think it's good information. You need to know that. So those are all things that are kind of in the works as I talk to groups and I get excited and I get more ideas. I'd love to do it all, but as I said, we're starting diligently doing our best to create a holistic child abuse center, and then branching out from that. to do the prevention work, so we're not so reactive instead of proactive.
I just want to thank you because that was an excellent presentation with a lot of information, valuable information. And once again, kind of opens your eyes for those who are not working with young people when my kids are already 35 and 40. So
Yeah.
it's nice to hear what is going on with many of our youth, probably not all the youth, but I don't want to stereotype them, but with many of our youth who have challenges they face. Thank you.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Oh, thank you so much for inviting me.
So I just put my email into the chat. You
Okay.
can grab it there.
Yep, I will do that. Yeah, I will, Phil, I will connect with you. I am going to be out of the office today, but I'll be back tomorrow, so I'll give you a call. Or
That's good. I'm doing floor covering today, so.
Oh, there you go.
That sounds like work.
I love house renovation. That would be my career, but then if I was a career, it wouldn't be so much fun.
Yeah.
I got some work for you, Phil. I'm pretty close.
Oh yeah. Let me come over. If it's demolition, I'm all in. Love demolition.
All right.
All the homes that we've ever owned were like fixer-uppers and stuff, and so we're all really. But the older I get, the less I want to do that. Like I don't want to do that anymore.
Exactly. But every home is a fixer-upper to some degree.
Yeah.
No. Well,
Okay.
Beatriz, thank you so much for being here and sharing with us. I love the questions. I love the engagement. And this will be posted, just so you know, up on our
Okay.
YouTube. So that way other people, if they have questions and wondering, they can do that,
Oh,
and then
yeah.
they'll be able to reach out to you.
Lisa,
So-
can you erase the parts where I was talking about the high school videos and people being bored?
Oh, is that at the beginning? No, I'll see if I can edit.
I think I was okay. I think people will
Yeah,
understand.
I don't think you, I think you were.
I don't think you've said anything that we don't all know.
Did not mention names. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, no, you're good. So, but with that, if you guys, for any of the good of the order, I did put the candidate forum up there, so you guys have those dates and those things happening. Please let us know if there's events, things that we need to be putting out there and helping you share. Beatrice, let me know if there's something that we can do as a chamber to help broadcast your message and get it out there further. We
Okay.
want to do those things for you. So, but with
Great.
that, I'm going to say, everybody have an amazing Thursday. We have a lot going on in our community. Check out that calendar. It is plumb full. So, and hopefully we're getting to the 70s and we'll stay there as far as temperatures go. So, but everyone take care and we will see you next week. Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye, everybody.